Hello, smart viewers. Welcome back to Venus TV Face to Face. Political transition, people, and diplomacy is such an intertwined factors in this life, which is such a big major impact in our life. And today we're gonna have a special guest from an international relations student, Ivan, and we're going to talk about this diplomacy, this very basic of diplomacy and how it's really major in today's life, because as we know, democratic society, people power, everything, it involves people.
Yes.
But when an authority is able to take the people's heart, let's say like that, people's heart, they're going to be able to sustain in their position, let's say like that. But how can he balance those interests with the interests of the people again?
Well, actually, first of all, we have to know that actually diplomacy is not currently happened in today's only. Diplomacy grows in our human history. As we know that the French revolutions, it's a product of diplomacy as well. And also like North Korea and South Korea, even though they are fighting each other, they are products of diplomacy. Actually, diplomacy is quite matters in our international society. But what we are concerning as, especially personally for me as international relations students, we believe that actually today's diplomacy is not really yet a very effective ways to handle or solve some issues in international.
Why so? Is it because where we're living now, or is it?
No, because I think that actually many countries or many international actors now have a lot of interesting interests in their own capacity, and somehow, if we see the trend of international society this day, we believe that I believe that actually diplomacy is quite matters, but it's not really effective enough to solve some issues. Like we see that in Syria, there's still a terrorist action, something like that. It means diplomacy is not really effective in some ways per se, but I think it's still a very matters for our international society.
Again,
yes.
The main player in this diplomacy, of course, the politician, let's say, the authority. How like right now, a lot of places is having this political transition. Like now, Jakarta is having
or
this
USA, right?
election. USA got their soon to be elected president. It's gonna be on January. France is also having election. What impact do you think like these elections like this can bring to the society? When you said that diplomacy is not really effective, is there anything to do with this authority, this image of authority? Can it change?
Well, actually, the first thing is that I didn't mention that diplomacy is not really effective, but what I see that diplomacy is one of the important ways that actually that politicians or actors might use when they are want something. But what I see now is actually the political transition is especially in our country, Indonesia. It might be affect a lot of dimensions in our society. For example, like before in our Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono regime, we see that a lot of issues in our internal government is a bit messy, But in our Jokowi's, I think his diplomacy way, especially nowadays, Jokowi is approached a lot of politicians, a lot of high authorities in every parties in Indonesia. So actually, diplomacy is a very effective way, but it's not really full resulted enough in our.
So you need to mix things like
actually it's not only diplomacy, but we have to mix with another.
Such as what?
Such as,
for example,
maybe for now transition, not the transition, but about ad hoc issues, right? Now Jokowi is approaching a lot of politicians, a lot of high authorities, and we see that actually Jokowi has to maintain their internal government first, because we see that, according to me, I think Jokowi's government now is a bit unstable for a while, because a lot of rumors, a lot of gossips outside there that actually seeing that there will be actions to make our Jokowi's government downfall. I don't know, but it's just rumors. But for me, I think Jokowi is wisely enough to use diplomacy in his actions to solve this issue. But he also have to combine the way between diplomacy and also their policy, his policy in governing our Indonesia. I think that's.
So, like, of course, what does newly elected people in authority do or really affect when? Well, we can say like, yes, it's people power, whatever, people in power. But again, we have this higher role in authority where they represent the people, right? So, am I true if I say like, it is really important of who's being elected?
Of course, being very important. First of all, if we are elect or choose our leader as a corrupter, for example, I think it's all, of course, affect our society and our countries. But what you are asking is about the diplomacy, right? The diplomacy affect the high authorities' connection to our society, our people. That actually diplomacy need in our political transition or whatever it is. But the matter is, like what I said before, we have to mix and combine that diplomacy. Somehow, some the politician promote himself or herself to society that I can do this, I can do that. It's kind of diplomacy actually. But when they're elected, they are not showing the action. So actually, I think diplomacy here is a very basic and common actions for every democracy country, especially democracy country, to maintain their political transitions. So when there is a political transition, for example, like in Jakarta, now there will be elections for the governor, right?
Yes.
And now, you know, the issues, the problem is bigger and bigger. The diplomacy is very important to at least solve these issues for a while. I think that.
If you can explain briefly, what will you say as a diplomacy, like briefly? Probably people say think diplomacy is, oh, Ivan, come on, we can do this.
Just like a simple, actually diplomacy, when you are meeting in elevator and we are talking each other, it's kind of diplomacy. In international relations, we notice some kind of diplomacy. For example, like elevator diplomacy, toilet diplomacy. So somehow in United Nations or maybe international society, we are having that kind of diplomacy. A leader and a leader meet in the elevator and they communicate each other. It's kind of diplomacy. Actually, diplomacy is very simple. It's not like people think about diplomacy is very hard or very exclusive, something like that. No, but it's very simple.
It's really interesting, and we're gonna have a commercial break now, and we're going back to you in the next segment. So stay tuned with us on Binus TV Face to Face. Hello, smart viewers. Welcome back to Binus TV Face to Face. So, Ivan, we're talking about this diplomacy, how it's actually really simple, such as when I chat you through my phone, when we talk like this, is part of diplomacy. And you also said like there's elevator diplomacy. Okay, and so how do you see this situation of this diplomacy? Do you think us, especially as a youth, having responsibility to at least know something about or having idea with this diplomacy so we can participate in political sphere, let's say like that, because apparently we have to be concerned about that. We cannot really ignore it about that, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, first of all, when you chat me, it's not really diplomacy. But if you chat me with some interest, you have something you want from me, and you get from me, it is diplomacy.
So basically, when I invite you here, it's part of
yeah,
diplomacy.
when you are chat me to invite me this show, you are doing diplomacy.
Great.
But the second question is about the youth. I think, yeah, actually my concern in Indonesia, for example, yeah, especially Indonesia as my country, as our country, some youth actually is not really concerned about politics. Even though like, you know, ironically, they don't know the period of presidential. They don't know the presidential list. They don't know who is the second president of Indonesia, who was the president of Indonesia.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, youth have to know about diplomacy. But moreover, youth have to know about politics, no matter what. Because politics is our backbone of our country.
As simple as watching news.
As simple as watching news, or maybe like, even though you are not like to watch news, you can just, you know, give a comment when there's something problems. You can criticize some social issues.
But
That's
when
kind of
people don't know what they're criticizing about, they can create conflicts. We see Ahok as part of that. I think, yeah, people criticizing, they're participating in politics, but they're creating
the problem
some
is we
tension.
never. Yes, that's a very good question actually. But the problem is we never know. Actually, are they criticizing it without knowing it or with knowing it? We never have a very good indicators to know this critics is very constructive enough or not. But what I see, if you criticize, it means you're concerned about our country. Even your critics is not really good, or maybe your critics is blaming each other.
Even if my critic can cause chaos. What is it?
Well, if you can cause chaos,
Like conflicts, let's say conflicts, because I say something that offends someone from different races or religion concerning the politics. How about that?
actually that's a very interesting part because we see these issues, we see this trend in United States, right? Currently, like people now in racial issues and they're criticized about Donald Trump.
Yes.
That's also concerning politics. You're concerned about politics nowadays. If you see Donald Trump policy in his upcoming regime, he will, very racist about some issues, right? For example, like he wants to build, the wall between U.S. and Mexico or something like that. And people criticize, and people criticize and making it chaos. Nowadays, USA is currently a lot of chaos, a lot of demonstrations against Donald Trump. If we can create, I don't say to the people that actually creating chaos might give a good solutions, but making people moved from a status quo, it's quite a good step for building our country. If, remember, I underline if the government is not qualified or not good enough for our people. But ideally, if you can make people move without making chaos, we call it diplomacy.
Like referendum
or something, petition, like change.org.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a quite good movement. So actually, making chaos might be a good
French
way,
Revolution starts a chaos, but then we see
but it's not the only way. That's it, I think.
Okay, it's really interesting. Because you touched the topic of the foreign transition. Do you think it will affect Indonesia somehow?
Oh, which foreign transition? U.S.
Yeah, U.S.
Of course, it will. It will actually. Before that, I want to share to you actually the trend of our international society nowadays is changing from neoliberalism into neo-nationalism. That's why Trump wins, because people see that U.S. needs something. The patriotism or something. So it means that actually it might be giving of I don't know it's even bad or good impact, but it might be actually giving impact to Indonesia, especially for trading and corporations. But as I see, Donald Trump is
he would be a bit close with another country. That's what he said.
Yeah, but he is a very rich person, right?
Yes.
He is a businessman.
Yes.
in another hand, actually, he is a businessman. I don't know, actually, I cannot predict his movement, but if we see his background as businessman, I think he will maintain the business relation between U.S. and Indonesia. But about Islamophobia or racism, I don't know, because Indonesia is the biggest Muslim country in the world, right? So I don't know if U.S. might affect Indonesia or not, but I think will give impact later on, I think.
Do you think if we as a youth know something, at least something about it, like we can see like, oh, he might cause this to Indonesia, don't you think it's like really important again for us to know about this, and then we can prepare something?
Sure, of course.
As a youth.
It's very simple. For example, you want to work in US, you want to work in New York, you have to know the policy of New York, you have to know the visa, you have to know how to get green card. And how to get the green card, the policy of green card, for example, the permission to go, it's under Trump's regime, so you have to know what will Trump do in United States that will giving impact to Indonesia. I think you have to know, no matter how interested you are in politics, but you have to know actually that international society is now changing, and people in Indonesia, not only youth, actually have to know about this changing, this shifting trend of international society.
Okay, as simple as watching news, internet.
Watching news, surfing internet, kind of like that.
Okay. From this, do you think there's any enough platform? Let's say, like probably people don't want to see news. It's kind of boring. Come on, open like blah blah blah.com. Let's say like that. No, it's too heavy for me. It's such a heavy reading. No.
Well, there's one more term in diplomacy. I don't know, it's my terms. My terms. We have warung kopi diplomacy. Actually, if you don't want to read news, you can ask the others about the news. So actually, you can not only reading the news, but you can also communicate to each other, talking and discussing about this some social issues. So actually, we are living in 21st century, a lot of thousand ways to know about our political conditions. And nowadays, I think our political conditions and our government nowadays is open enough for everyone to see them, see their progress. I think there's no reason for youth or young people do not know about our political situations.
To be ignorant about it.
Yeah, to be ignorant.
Okay, so interesting. Yeah. So we're gonna have a break now.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll get back to you. So stay tuned with us in Venus TV Face to Face. Viewers, welcome back to Venus TV Face to Face, and we're still with Ivan. So Ivan.
Yes.
As I know that right now Venus is having Model United Nations.
Actually, I'm the chairs for today.
Great.
But I'm coming here for you only, Bear.
Oh my God! Thank you so much.
No, just
thank
kidding.
you so much.
Yeah, actually, can I explain this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure. Actually, Venus is currently holding Model United Nations. This is the second year for Venus MUN under International Relations Student Associations, and me as a chairs. So we are having two councils. If you know, United Nations Security Council and also Human Rights Council. Now we are having that.
So the theme is today's theme is
restoring human rights.
Restoring human rights. Okay.
We are talking about human rights, like a lot of issues nowadays that human rights is violated, right? So in MUN, in Venus MUN nowadays, we are talking about this.
Well, for example, I'm a computer science student, but I think it's really interesting. Can I join?
Sure,
MUN?
sure. Actually, MUN is open for public. MUN, if you know politics for a bit, you can. You can apply. You can register any MUN. We have a lot of MUN in Indonesia and outside there. And even though you are not a political major, you can join. It's free. It's open for public. Everyone can join.
Like, what are the things that you have learned that has impacted you so much from MUN?
That's quite interesting.
Especially talking about diplomacy. Is
Yeah,
there anything
it's
to
a
do?
very unique. It's a very unique questions. In MUN, first you will gain a lot of friends because you meet a lot of new friends, a lot of mates. And the second one, of course, your soft skill. In MUN, you also will learn about diplomacy and how you communicate to each other, how you can influence each others. That actually you can learn a lot. And the last one actually is very quite important since I am an international relations student. We know a lot of international issues and also the law. I think that's three major advantages that I can mention.
And you can also learn how to influence someone or a policy to. I mean,
Yeah,
it trains your logic as well, right?
yeah, you can. Yeah, you use logic when you're influenced.
Because to be honest, I'm not familiar with MUN. So basically, what are you doing there?
We are like
probably you can also
actually,
share with people.
yeah,
who don't
MUN
know
is like
how to
you know,
hear.
it's like simulations of United Nations. So everyone in that council, in that meeting, will be represented as one country. So everyone there will talk and discuss about one issues or maybe two issues about international issues, and every country will speak and talk and discuss about this issue and how they can solve this issue in togetherness. I think that's
Okay, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Apparently, we've reached the end of our segment
Sure.
today.
Sure.
It's really interesting talk today and really inspiring. So hopefully, the youth today at least become more concerned at least about the politics, because as Ivan said, it's like a backbone of our society and how it can impact us really big. So for today, we're gonna end today's episode. So thank you so much for the crew and for Ivan as well, especially
Thank you very much for
having
inviting me.
us today. And we'll see you again on the same time and the same place in Venus TV, 1:30 p.m. on Friday. See you guys.